Hello and welcome to yet another session of Campus to Corporate Leaders. Today we have a different timing, but the guest today is exclusive. She's from Munich. Devasmita Halder, ISB&M Kolkata batch 2009-11 is here with us as a guest in our title series Think Foolish, Act Wise. We have with us our co-panelist, Professor Brita Singh, with over a decade of experience in training soft skills and corporate communication. Devashmita, welcome to the show and please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Devasmita is basically from Kolkata, not from Munich. And I am working here. Yeah, it's just by chance, by luck, by the opportunities I have, I'm here. But I am, in general, very fond of Kolkata, like come from Kolkata's heart, basically.
Right. So, Devashmita, would you talk about, you have had a very momentous journey from ISB&M to where you are currently, because of which we had to change the timing to suit international timing. You've been praised by your peers, your mentors, and professionals in your industry. You've been praised for your motivation, for your ingenuity in your work, for being able to manage deadlines and budgets with top-notch, world-class outcome while you worked with the Mattel account of Ogilvy team. So all of that, all accolades have come your way. Let's talk about that a little more.
Well, I'm sure that you are referring to my LinkedIn references given by some of or few of my colleagues. I would just like to say those other people who like me, who are fond of me, and probably you will find a lot more people who do not like me and not fond of me at all. And that's okay, because that's my professional part of my life, and it's okay if people don't like me for that. I have my family and friends. But you wanted to ask about the good things, and yeah, how did I do it? It's just I was being myself, and it's all about. It started way back in Ogilvy when I was a fresher. I had very little knowledge about how this professional world works. I started as an intern in Ogilvy, and there I learned, and I had mentors who appreciated me for being the person I am. And I was allowed to get into other people's work. I was allowed to comment on everything what they were doing. And hence, I also developed myself to become the person I am today. Hence, some people definitely like it. Yes, this nosy person getting into my work and giving me comments to improve something, or she doesn't like it. I would say it up out loud and be very frank. That's how I got to what I did. However, for Ogilvy, because you just referred to Mattel, and the comment I received from one of my clients when I was working in Ogilvy, that happened because of a very, very innovative campaign which we did, and it was for Hot Wheels, and that ended up winning a Guinness Book of World Record, which is generally not expected from a advertising campaign.
That's incredible. Would you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we were doing a campaign on Hot Wheels. Yes, it was one of my favorite brands, and we were given the task to create something. We need talkability, and the client was also briefless basically, and which is a very good thing to have, and it's entrusting the agency with a lot of power, that you can come up with the idea, and if it's great enough, we execute it. So yeah, we decided that what is Hot Wheels for? It's cars, of course. And what do you do with the cars? You race with the cars, or you take it on tracks, or you do something like that. So what we decided to do is create the world's largest track for Hot Wheels.
Wow,
And that was done in Mumbai Oberoi Mall.
that's and like I'm sure it created a lot of stir. Like, where was it placed? Around in the outdoor, indoors? Where was it placed?
It was in the indoor. It was inside Mumbai Oberoi Mall. It was a really huge tower with multiple tracks running through. So there were kids pressing the button to compete in the track.
So
Basically, it's toy
exciting.
car track. Like, it's not a real car track, so it doesn't have to be that great, that big. And what also uh, worked out for us is somebody very close to my heart at that point of time. Ritik Roshan came to like launch that, like press the first button.
So a lot of dream come true, a lot of fairy tale thing happened. Ritik Roshan came to the launch. It made it to the Guinness Book of World Record. Completely, one after the other. It's like making
Takes
of
me to
a.
the movie dialogue.
There is something here I wanted to refer to. It says she regularly displays ingenuity in her work as a brand marketer, not only to execute tasks, but also to continuously bring something new to the table. So that, how do you do that? How do you continuously bring something new to the table? What triggers thoughts in your brains? How does it work?
Like, well, what triggers? There's no secret recipe which I could give. Like, wish even I had that, it would be much simpler for me in
Hmm.
life. But yeah, it's um, I am never satisfied with whatever I have achieved, because you then get stuck there. How are you moving on? And this is what I would like to give credit to Ogilvy, because they're brainstorming, thinking of ideas and thinking of more ideas. Every time you had to come up with new something. And like it's not that like everybody is asking for some innovation, something new, and that's in my bloodstream probably right now, because I started working from Ogilvy. And yeah, I cannot settle for mediocrity, as well as I need to try out something. I just also cannot go for the proven mechanisms. So it's good in one side, and it's also detrimental in some cases. But yes, like I said in the beginning, some people will say good things about me, the people who like me. But yes, most people do not appreciate this proven mechanisms to be reworked on, because it doesn't need to be for most people. But the world is changing, the world is not stuck there. And that is what people are looking for. And when they are hiring new people, that's what they want to see, how fearless you are, and how open you are to even question everything, and work in a different manner.
More on that later, but flashback to when you were a student at ISB&M Kolkata. Talk about about those memories as an alumna now that you look back?
Well, probably Brita ma'am would be the right person to comment on that. But yes, I used to be the placement coordinator, and yes, I was a notorious student. Uh, Not one of the students which all professors prefer, but I would still say that I had the support of almost all the professors which we had at that point of time in ISB&M Kolkata. So I never wanted to be in placement cell. I never aspired to do that. I didn't even apply for it. So at that point of time, Moha Moitro, who was our department head, she called me and she told me that why don't you join it and try for a few days, and if you don't like it, then don't do it. But I think that forget, like not forget, of course, but set aside the academics. What really shaped me is placement cell, where I was talking to professionals, talking to HR, and I knew that what difficulty it is there to place a fresher. And yeah, and that is where I also learned to fail, and failure was appreciated, because the number of companies I called, I could not bring in even half of them. And that's what teaches, that these are the practical lessons which you need to learn in life when you are working in a corporate environment. And that is what ISB&M taught me. Also, I would hardly attend classes because I was always in the pack room and doing placement work. Also, sometimes, like, I was not really doing work, I was just lazy. But I would say the professors had always been very, very supportive when I wanted to ask for help or understand something better. They always did it separately for me. And along with that, what I just feel that a person who just doesn't attend classes often and is doing something else might seem to the professors as not interested in academics, but they always understood that people are different, and they treated also differently. And there was very little bias, because by not attending classes, I couldn't have been one of the favorite students. But yeah, without that bias, things went on pretty smoothly. And I think, yeah, I wasn't probably a bad student, but not a bad scorer.
Yes, because whatever work you did was very good and excellent. I think that was because your mind worked always, and which is standing you in good stead today as well.
And I believe that's what ISB&M also stands for. It's not just academics, but it's all about overall experience, your practical skills, how you deal with people, how you deal with corporates, and how eventually you present yourself, you become yourself, and you're groomed that way. Devashmita, you
Yeah,
were talking about the importance of failure. Yeah, I think you just mentioned that failure was appreciated at ISB&M. Now, that's a very interesting terminology that I'm sure needs a lot more explanation and more examples to elaborate on that.
yes, of course. Like, I am a person who really believes in that failure is the best teacher in life, because if you don't fail, you hardly know something what's happening, and you hardly learn something different. If you don't fail, you don't try to succeed. Like, starting from ISB&M, when I was put in the grind of finding companies to place not just yourself, all your fellow batchmates, it's not easy. It's a lot of pressure on the placement cell and individually me. Like I am a person who's really task oriented. Like I have to complete the task. So that for a person like me, it used to be tremendous pressure. And yeah, there I have failed so many times. It's just not one. It it's like every company I would call, they say, "Oh, not the right person. Call us back." And it's there you develop your skill how to convince someone and how to take somebody to the next level, how to reach to the next level of your correspondent in the company. Hence, that is where I started how to be okay with failure. And then when you join an organization, you're a fresher. Whatever you have learned, whatever you have studied, you might have had 4.8 CGPA or GPA, but that is all zero. When you start working something, you are just nobody. You start from there and you are bound to fail. It is not necessary that you will succeed in everything you do. You don't succeed in your life, in everything what we do, and you do not succeed in your career as well. But that doesn't mean it is taking you down somewhere. If you take failure as a learning opportunity and improve the next steps in life, I think that is the most important part. And what you learn from failure, you cannot learn from anywhere else in the world, because it takes you down, it breaks you morally, then you learn how to build yourself, stand up again, and then get going, work on that same thing and make it happen. Because giving up in a corporate world is just not an option which you have. Hence, I think failure teaches you a lot of things, and it is just absolutely okay to fail. I have failed a lot of times, and I have learned from that, and I am not afraid of failing. Hence, I always tell this, it is generally in my, wherever I say, whoever I talk to, and young people, because generally we come from a society which always tells you, "Are, you cannot fail. You anything you can do, but you just cannot fail. Score 33.33% and don't fail. Failing a class is a taboo. Failing an exam is like, oh my God, in your peer circle, that girl fails. Oh, it's she doesn't know something, or that guy is such horrible in English." And it's a judgmental society which we come from. And that takes us nowhere, because it is just absolutely not true that you have to be good in everything you do. You just have to find your own thing, and you have to learn from what has not worked for you, and you have to make that happen. And the society is not okay with it and will not be okay with it. Our educational system will not be okay with it. But you have to find that way for yourself. And yes, I have two professors, and I can request them to encourage students who also fail.
Devasmita, you talked about your personal experiences of failure and that you have learned from them. Could you maybe give an example or two to inspire and motivate and encourage others to fail and learn?
Well, what do I say? Like, there are so many instances, and like one of the examples which I already gave is failing in pack placement cell. And that was like not being able to place so many of my friends is not a good feeling you leave the college with, because but that doesn't mean they never got placed. It was just that I could not do it, but somebody else could. So that is one of the examples from college. But yeah, there are a lot of failures regarding to my projects in Ogilvy and in BSH as well as some up here in Siemens. I how do I say, like, my recent biggest failure is when I came in the times of COVID. I just could not make any friends here. I was living in a country for almost 1.5 years without a friend, which is a biggest failure because I could not talk to people, I could not connect to people. And I also learned from that it just doesn't come to me naturally also, that I will ask for someone's number and I will go out with some stranger. That just doesn't happen to me naturally. But with this, I was mentally not definitely doing okay because I was at home all day, working all day. And then, of course, coming from India, I have to cook for myself, I have to clean my house, and which I have never done in my life. And I also have to do the plumbing work and everything. So with all of that, it was taking me down. Then I developed some neck problem. I was getting tremendous pain, and my doctor sent me to a physiotherapist. And that physiotherapist was a South African young girl. And right now she is my very good friend. Like, who could imagine that I will make friendship with my physiotherapist?
That's a very, what should I say, encouraging story indeed. So you, because of your
What
failure.
I wanted to say was, you are so correct that, in India, we are sort of failure is a no-no. From the time the child is 2, he is told that you have to do the right thing, be the right person, everything has to be just right. But as you grow up, and especially when you start working, you might realize the importance of failure. But what about your colleagues? What about your peers? What about especially your seniors? Do they nowadays also think the way you do? Or are you one of the few who understand the importance of failure?
Well, what I must say is the world is changing towards this. Not everybody is still okay with um, this failure project, because that's not how we are brought up, right? We and it's just not about the society. Look at our population. Like, we have to fight
To
and we have
exist.
to do well to exist, to get a job, and to work for peanuts just because we are a lot more in number. And everything happens because we are always in a rat race, we are always competing, and we are just not okay to not do fine in one aspect. I have heard so many people that they want to stay in a company. I don't want an appraisal, I don't want growth. Wherever I am, I would stay. Just don't fire me, because I can't deal with that failure. Because we have not learned how to fail ever in our life. We have never been appreciated. We have never been taken up. But the world is changing. Every company is almost every company is going through organizational changes and cultural changes, because this doesn't only bring down the productivity which you have, but also what it does is it doesn't take, you cannot take a leap. As a professional, the company cannot take a leap in its business because of this mindset. You will not find everybody who's like this, but people are changing. Like I can tell you, in our company, we had failure nights. We were asked to step up on a dais in front of hundreds of people and talk about how you failed and not defend it. Because what happens is, as soon as there is a failure, we start defending. Oh, it happened because I had jaundice and I was not feeling well at all. There was some problem at my house. I had a headache. All the reasoning will come to us very instinctively. But what will not come is, it is just okay to fail. I have failed and I learned this from it. That just doesn't come naturally to us. And this is what we were actually made to do in public. And we raised toasts to our failures.
Does
And
this also make you more open to accepting criticism? Like somebody tells you something, you won't be defensive about it. You will look at it differently and perhaps change, implement, whatever.
Well, the person who's criticizing is not the person you should deal with.
Yeah,
The person, yeah. So you should get feedback and not criticism. Because in feedback, it's just that you should be open to receive feedbacks first of all.
That's it. That's what
just
I meant.
not, it's just not receiving somebody giving you feedback. Receiving feedback gives you actually insights which take you to the main solution of the project you're working on, or even in life, because it's not necessary that you have to take all the feedback. It's always very important to listen, and not just selective listen, or not just be there, listen, yeah, it's okay, I will do what I want to, say what you want to. It's just not the right thing to do. Just listen as much as possible, and then take the right decisions, and then take the right instinct from what comes from within. We always don't have, everything doesn't come stamped with a guarantee. There is always your gut, which you need to listen to. And yes, that is what the main thing in corporate life, in life, is all about.
A very important point that you raised here is about the importance of feedback, and not only about how to give feedback. That is also, I think, an area where a lot of training should be focused on how to give a feedback, as well as how to take a feedback. Both are extremely important for your future success, of how you learn and how you realize your mistakes and how you kind of step over it. Very important insights that came out from that answer, Devasmita. For our viewers, Devasmita is currently the Global Brand Communication Manager of Siemens BSH Home Appliance Group Limited. And as she was saying, her campus placement was at Ogilvy. And so, Devasmita, from Mumbai to Munich, where you're currently working now, talk about the trajectory of your career, your learning, your growth, whatever motivated you to move ahead, and the stepping stones of your success.
Oh, well, what I would like to do here is probably add one more instance, is from Kolkata to Mumbai to Munich. So Munich is a very recent thing in my life. It's not that I'm living here for 15 years. Well, I have always lived in Kolkata, and all my education has been in Kolkata, and I got placed in Ogilvy. So my career trajectory has started with advertising. Started with probably, let's say, placement cell. That's the first work I did. And from there, as a student, all what I had in mind is I wanted to do advertisement and advertising because it had a lot of money in it. That was my interest in getting into advertising. And well, I really tried hard. I did my internship and I got in there. And then the reality hits me. It's the lowest paid industry in the world. And but yes, I was with the best in India, and I don't regret one bit of doing it, because what Ogilvy taught me is basically to not be okay with mediocrity, because we had to come up with ideas every day. Hence, advertising is the best to build you. It's a lot of hard work, from not going home. Like I remember in my drawer, I used to have a toothbrush and a set of clothes, so that if I don't get to go home, I stay in Ogilvy and I continue the next day there. We used to sleep on a beanbag, and yeah, that's how my career started. But I must be very, very honest. In the first 3 years, the opportunities which I had, probably you have in 7 years of career. I used to work on brands like, of course, one you already mentioned, Mattel. I used to work on Vodafone, Home Center. Um, yeah, that's no, it can't be all. I also worked on channels like Fox Crime, like Star, and also we worked on multiple pitches with multiple brands. So the best part about being in advertising is it is so diverse that you are working on so many different brands at the same time, and getting to know how the business works and what makes the business go right from the advertising perspective. Like there is like, what do I even say? Like it's a sea of competition. And if you have to remember an advertisement, it will be, yeah, one of the old ones, and you will never remember mostly probably the new ones, unless you are just seeing it, you're liking it. And if you have to really say what life, it, working on multiple different brands takes your understanding to a different level. And it also, what it does, you can take something from some other business and try to implement in another, because you are part of an agency, and you can still do that, because you will not lose your job for presenting a bad idea. And from there, I spent 3 years of my life in Ogilvy, dealing with multiple brands. Then I thought probably advertising is not going to take me to my next leap. That's when I thought that I wanted to move to marketing. And yeah, I got through the opportunity at BSH, and I joined BSH at that point of time. Well, the most difficult part for me at that point of time was to deal with Excel sheets. I would like to highlight one incident that I had my phone, I was adding two numbers and putting it in an Excel sheet at that point of time. That's how bad I was. I had no idea how to deal with an Excel sheet. But yes, that's where I started from. But then I was handling the brand Bosch in India. After that, yeah, we did quite a bit of campaign. And while I was doing some campaigns, I then realized that there is so so much thought, so much business perspective which goes into an advertisement is generally what I, as an individual, was not thinking when I was working in Ogilvy. That advertisement to the campaign, which I was building for the business growth, when I was accountable for that advertisement, how I was reacting differently to the things which I had. And I was also never not okay with just doing what I'm doing, because I was always interested to know a lot more. Because one is the campaign side of it, one is brand building, but there is the business side of it. So I used to sit with people who would crunch numbers and who would deal with the business. And from there, I somehow raised interest, a little bit of interest, and I was the category manager for uh, laundry care, or the washing machines as we call it, which used to be, or which still probably is, the bread and butter of the company. So managing the entire business. And that's when I learned how and why do you react in a different manner towards a campaign, because you have the tasks to sell the product. You have the tasks to reach some number, and that number is not going to reduce anyhow. So when you have to bring in money for the company, that's when the real shit breaks. And but yes, a person who was so afraid of numbers handling the business was not definitely easy task, but that kept me up all night and I could not get sleep properly, but I still managed. However, what I also did at the same point of time is, there is something which is there within our company. It's mostly there in most MNCs. It's a talent pool program where you have to apply and there will be an interview and then you get selected. So it's a worldwide program which happens. I also took the opportunity to apply for that, and I was one of the two who got selected from India. And I was part of that Talentify program, which is called in our company. And from there, I was trained to, there we were basically, it's always you are working and you are learning from your work, but you often do not get the opportunity to self-reflect, to understand the person you really are, to really know what are your strengths. So we had a 2 or 3 day session at Birmingham, and there, I think that was the 3 most stressful days of my life. Trying to know yourself is the most difficult thing in life, because you want to be something, you want to do something, your goal is something, and you're trying to do something. But really knowing your core is so important. And from those 3 days of training, the way I started working, the way I started using my strengths were completely different. And yeah, from Talentify, I got to know more people got to know me. And from there, I'm here in Munich and managing the brand Siemens for the company. And I am here for about 1.5 years. Yeah, now.
It seems like a journey completely taken out of the leaves of a, definitely with a lot of hard work, but a fairy tale nonetheless. And yes, as you say, that knowing your code back to within 3 days could be stressful intensely, but it's amazing that you got that opportunity and you explored yourself. And then, as you say, you land up in Munich and you were there for 1.5 years. But again, here also, you are faced with this monumental challenge when you land in Munich immediately after, I believe, the lockdown started and you started working from home. So it's again a complete shift from your working patterns, how you've been viewing work and your work habits. So how did you deal with that? What made your journey simpler or smoother, or how did you adapt and change?
Well, it was definitely not smooth. It was very, very difficult. And yes, when I was in Munich, I was in the trance. Wow, I'm in Munich. I have to see this place. I have to find an apartment. Well, finding an apartment in Munich is no joke. It's like probably after the 3 days of knowing myself, this was probably another stressful period of my life because yes, in Munich, people don't, there's scarcity of apartments, and then there are filters that they don't give apartments to Indians. And so that was a task. And from there, setting up my apartment, all of this was there. The day I moved into my apartment, which was an empty apartment without lights, without anything in it.
Lights.
Yeah, without even lights. Like there were connection, but there were no bulbs.
Wonderful.
So without anything, I moved into the apartment, and the company announced that, yeah, you have to work from home. And I was like, okay, now comes the real challenge. And yes, my personal life aside, but what I would like to say, other than how I dealt with the challenge of work from home, I think the most difficult part for me was moving to this country. When I was like I had an amazing social circle in Mumbai. I had friends, I had great colleagues, and even I had friends from my school living in Bombay. And that time when I was moving for the last couple of months, I was the most important person. Every day there is some plan with somebody, from meeting something and having lunches and drinks and dinners and everything. From there, I moved to Munich to being nobody. No social circle, no friends, different work, different culture, unknown language, and a lockdown. So from there, what I started doing probably is I started keeping the video on for my calls, because that is the only way I had to connect with people, so that people got to see my face and see how I react to things, and I could see people's face, because it's so easy to get distracted. And I'm sure a lot of the students are distracted right now because we can't see them. It's so important that we are focused on the topic. We see each other, we talk to each other, and we socialize with each other. Without the socializing part, having to know people, see people, and trust people is what I have learned during this time of lockdown and working from home and being all alone. And also, what really helped me is I am not a person who can stay still. So I started sketching, which I have never done in my life before. I started ordering in all the furnitures and building it up by myself. And yeah, and I even started gardening. Like I could not imagine me gardening, buy some plants, put it up, let it grow, see it grow, nurture it. And that is what kept me going. I used to tire myself out every day because sitting on that chair, also during the first lockdown, there wasn't enough work which we all could distribute amongst the team. Hence, it was very important that we actually invest into hobbies, invest into something else which can keep you alive other than your work. And of course, I had a very, very strong support system back in India, my family, my friends. So that's who kept me going in this difficult times. But yes, what is important is we need to be able to change. We need to be able to adapt to situations very quickly. And that's how it worked for me. It's necessarily doesn't have to work the same way for everybody else, but finding what works for you, finding what can keep you sane in situations which are difficult and which we all have faced in the recent past, somehow or the other, it's important that you know yourself and you work to keep yourself in good mental space.
So
Uh,
important.
yeah, that's very precise and like pearls of wisdom. And towards the end of when we was talking about your new life, uh, we kind of realized that you've been through changes after changes almost throughout your career and your life, and you've adapted to it. uh, yes, you seem to say that it's with a lot of hard work, and we definitely believe that. But the hard work had paid off, and it has been, it has worked for you seamlessly, wonderfully well. And now that you are Atmanirbhar, to take that term to the fullest extent, building your own furniture to doing gardening, maybe, have a kitchen garden and growing your own food, to that kind of a lifestyle. It's brilliant. So, change being the only constant, what sustains you? And what makes you such a great change maker and great adapter to change?
Because if you don't change, you don't survive in this corporate world. There is no chance without changing. And I think what helps me personally probably is I'm never satisfied with what I have achieved. I don't have a sense of accomplishment because I always feel that probably if I would have done it some other way, it could have been better, which is not always good, I must also say, because it puts tremendous pressure on yourself. But I can't do anything. That's the person I am. Yes, I come with my flaws too. And yes, it is important that we continue to challenge ourselves, not accept uh, yeah stagnation. Basically, if you are happy where you are and you are doing what you are doing, then you don't do anything new. You don't learn anything new. If I were to really be happy, I was very happy in Oval. Like, I was one of the best performers at that point of time, and everybody liked me. Everybody enjoyed being able to work with me, and I had multiple teams I was working on. If I was to stay there and not change and not accept the fact, I would probably still be in advertisement. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. I would still be in advertising, and I will still be working all night and not even think about what other things which you need in your life. Because with those changes, I have also learned that working is just not everything. You need a work-life balance. You need to spend time for other things which keeps your mind away from work. Although I don't do it myself regularly, I always promote sport is really, really necessary in everyone's life. Yes, all the women out there and also all the men out there with big punches in MBA, please go do some sport. It really helps you.
That's sporting too, to be in a sport and have a sporting attitude, to be able to accept failures, all of that beautifully summed up there. And what you said, probably without realizing it, you talked about self actualization, where you're pushing your own boundaries, your own limit, where your competitor is not anyone from outside but your own self.
Your own idea of perfection.
There is nothing perfect for me, because
Yeah, it's a
everything you have done
constant,
something.
and it
Because
constantly improves.
if you don't always question what you have, that thing always doesn't necessarily improve. Or somebody else thinks and somebody else does that if you don't do it.
That's right. So, and I think there comes the question of, to be foolish enough to discard what you really enjoy doing, to even though you are seemingly happy and satisfied with what you're doing at the moment, but to be foolish enough to kind of let that go and jump for newer horizons to capture. I think, but yes, the one thing that you said is also very important, that don't do it. Do it with a foolish heart, but with a wise head, right? I think, Devasmita, you would agree on that.
Yes, I will agree on that, but I will just bring a sample. Like, discarding is being foolish, and it necessarily is not the secret recipe. That's what worked for me. That necessarily doesn't mean that it has to work for everybody. But what I can say about being foolish is, we as people are so conscious about what we say, how we say. To question people, we are so conscious that we keep our mouth shut most of the times. And that is where I really, really believe that be as foolish as you are. Ask the stupidest questions in the world, because trust me, the other person sitting in the same room has the same question in mind and does not have the courage to question that. And that person from within will be so grateful that you asked that stupid question. And open your mouth, say as many stupid things as you want to. Let people laugh at you if they are doing it. It doesn't matter, because what people remember about you is the one smart thing you said in all the lot of hundred of stupid things. People do not remember the stupid things you said after a month. So be as stupid, ask everything, ask the questions which is there in your mind. Don't be afraid to look stupid, to look foolish, because the person who's thinking that you are foolish and you're stupid is actually not the wisest person in this world.
Thank you, Devasmita. I think on that note, we should end this webinar. It has been a wonderful pleasure talking to you. I believe, Preeta, you would.
Wonderful. And I particularly liked what you said, is that you must have an interest. And this is something that a lot of us in India don't have, because children focus only on their studies and then only on their work, and they just forget about themselves. They even sometimes forget about their families. And it's so important to realize that we are human beings. We're not just machines that work. So that was something I really liked what you said about having a work-life balance and having an interest, having hobbies, whether it be gardening, sketching, whatever, but having something which allows you to do something different. That was really good. I really appreciated that bit. Thank you so much, Devushmita.
Thank you, Brita ma'am, and thank you, Obirupa ma'am. And thank you, everybody else.
Thanks
It's
to
been
all the
great.
panelists and the attendees who were attending our sessions in Facebook Live as well as in Zoom. And we see you again next week with another round of Campus to Corporate Leaders series of Alumni Connect webinar organized by ISB&M Kolkata. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much.